Commission to order at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 11th, 2015. We have quorum and the agenda was properly posted.
Correct.
Do a roll call, please.
Don Brinkmeyer.
Here.
Phyllis Jones Morrison. Here. Ken Keeley. Aaron Knoplo.
Here.
Harvey Potter.
Here.
Rob Weisey.
Here.
Diane Moonbeck.
Here, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is public appearances, the public's opportunity to speak about any subject matter that is not a specific agenda item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Okay, then item 5. Discuss and consider site plan review application from Steel Corporation for proposed improvements to Lot 4 of the Cottage Grove Commerce Park. Is Brett out there in the hall? He was
Maybe making a quick
He was
phone
making
call.
a phone call in. Do you want to wait till he gets in to get started?
We should, or we could move ahead to the Kramers and come back if
Okay,
that's okay.
we can do that. Item 6 then for now. This is a discuss-only item. Discuss the site and deed restriction concepts for the Kramer property, 4201 Vilas Road. Mr. Jensen, are you planning on coming up here, or who is? Oh, okay. Good evening, gentlemen.
Okay. Putting you on the spot a little bit, you just walked in the door. So you probably remember the gentlemen were here back in December asking about splitting an existing lot in half and using it for a second unsewered residential parcel. The direction that the commission gave at that time was we're interested in pursuing the idea. We wanted some more information, specifically an example of a deed restriction that was used elsewhere to ensure that the lots would get hooked up to village utilities at the appropriate time, and also some concept plans showing how that land could get developed in the future. Mr. Sansness from Memorial Oak did submit those materials. They should be in your packet. I think generally, obviously the deed restrictions were more of a general example. They weren't specific to this parcel. They'll have to get fine-tuned a little bit, but I think the criteria for the attachment at least were generally acceptable and something we can use moving forward. The concept plans, again, we didn't thoroughly review them as though they were a plat, but as a general concept, I think they were all appropriate for the site. Two of the concepts included the property to the west, and ideally, that would provide a little more flexibility for a better layout. Obviously, we can't guarantee that that combination would happen at any time in the future. The third concept used just the existing Kramer property. I guess you could think of that as kind of a worst-case scenario if the land to the west is not available. The only comment I had on that one, it looked like there's a proposed CSM line, but then in the...
Yeah, we were thinking about maybe moving that CSM line over a little bit to maybe look at, basically the land to the east of that line will be unusable for the most part. So, to maximize the area that could be developed in the future, to move that line around. It doesn't have to be. It was just an idea that we could throw in there if that's what the board chose.
Yeah, I think just the concern I have was, the need to borrow from the Kramer's property later to try to make the thing work.
That layout would then solve that issue, right?
So I think we'd want to see some of that. We'd want to see the deed restrictions developed specifically for this parcel, but I think if we have those things, I at least would be comfortable accepting a CSM application. Are there any questions or?
Well, the only, the issue that we discussed at staff is simply the fact that the deed restrictions are there, and so that will require some staff time, you know, potentially in the future in terms of monitoring. That's something that the county does quite a bit of when they make approvals. We have not really done too much of that. So it's a little bit out of the ordinary, but perfectly enforceable.
Anyone have any questions for the Kramers or Mr. Seskus? Don, how do you feel about this?
I'm fine with
Fine with it? Do we want to decide which one, or is it just at the time that this happens?
They're just concepts showing how the land could get developed. What will actually come in is just the CSM.
So
splitting
either,
the lot into. Just want to make sure we're not doing that in a way that'll keep the land from being developed more extensively.
okay.
I agree with Aaron's comments. See how it's
Phyllis? Abby?
I think that Aaron's comments are great, and I'm okay with the concept.
Okay. So I guess just keep going, Ted?
Okay, we'll proceed forward and put a preliminary CSM together, and then probably have to work with Lee to work out the language as far as the deed restriction, and we'll go forward from there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have 4 packets to go through. It's kind of about jumping from one to another. Okay, then, Brett's back in the room. Item 5, discuss and consider the site plan review application from Steel Corporation for proposed improvements to Lot 4 of the Cottage Grove Commerce Park. Brett Newcomb is with us from Newcomb Construction. And I think you have some people on the phone.
They dropped off.
They dropped off. Okay.
I'll debrief them after the meeting, after our meeting.
Aaron, you want to handle it the same way and let him talk about it first,
Sure.
and then, okay?
Trying to speak into, my
No,
phone didn't pick up.
it'll pick it up.
It'll pick it up. Okay.
Do you want the boards over there so they show up on TV?
I don't, if you can get a good shot of them, that would be good. As long as we can still see too.
Got a steel tie-in too.
Yeah.
That's a requirement.
Do we still have those big maps? They were out on the table this morning.
Yeah, there's only 5 of them
Pass them
It's like the birthday candle that won't go on.
It's this, it's.
Oh, that one. Oh, thank you. 6 engineers in there, we can't figure it out.
You do have a new village action report from Aaron in this morning's meeting too. So don't look at the one in your packet. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Brett Newcomb with Newcomb Construction. We're the design build general contractor for steel. The gentlemen from Steel Incorporated reside in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is near Norfolk. And they were on a conference call with us this morning at the Architecture Review Committee meeting. You know, it was a good meeting. A lot of the suggestions that were made, we're very comfortable making to the building. I think they're all positive. They were going to be on a conference call with us today, but they thought it may just be more cumbersome than it's worth. So I'll just debrief them after this. I've been to their facility in Virginia Beach. They have 2 million square feet down there. It's an amazing facility, and I would consider Cottage Grove and even the Dane County area very fortunate to be able to get a company like Steel here. And you know, we're going to do our best to give them a quality building. And I know Cottage Grove has been very good about dealing with them so far to this point. They're very, very pleased with how everything has been proceeding. The project itself is going to be in the Cottage Grove Commerce Park on Lot 4. And the location is shown on this site plan. Lot 4 is here. If you're familiar with the area, the Johnson Health Tech facility is kitty corner across the street over here. The daycare is 2 buildings over from the front, and shared medical services back here to kind of give you a reference point of where we're at. The airport is down in this area. So the building itself will be 65,000 square feet. It's 250 feet by 263. There'll be about 6,000 square feet of office in the front and 8 docks in the back. The docks will be screened by a fence, which is represented by this line. The front of the fence that faces Commerce Park will be a decorative fence that's 6 feet high. It will look like this. And they are very conscientious of security and also aesthetics. So they want that to be very nice, that faces the street and the parking lot. The 2 other sides that will wrap the dock will be a chain link, but it'll be a black vinyl coated chain link. So a little bit nicer than just your standard galvanized chain link fence. All of it will be 6 feet high. There'll be a gate here that is a sliding gate that'll be the same material as the decorative fence that's being passed around right there. The number of employees that will be working here will be 25 to 35 full-time employees. They're closing 2 other locations, and they've offered positions to those employees to move here. I think they've had a positive response of current employees to relocate to this area, which is positive for our community. But the reason they're showing so many parking stalls is because they have dealers in this territory that will come here to be trained on the products that they have, how to sell the products, the safety of the products, and so forth. And they have those dealer meetings 3 to 4 times a year. So they might have 50 people that come here from kind of a quad state area to stay in local hotels and eat here, and then they train for a few days and then they go back. So the parking is sized for all their employees, 35 employees, plus the 50 dealers that will be visiting here 3 to 4 times a year. We talked with them about the option of possibly parking on the street, which staff said that may be an option, but they elected to not park on the street and to build the parking now. So I think that was, it's a visionary thought on their part to be able to just provide good parking stalls and not, encumber the street with parking. The design of the building is going to be a concrete tilt-up structure, which is what my company builds. We built Johnson Health Tech in the park, which is concrete tilt-up. And we also built shared medical service in the park. The tilt-up panels themselves are insulated concrete panels. So this is a section of what that panel looks like. So the outside concrete is 2 3/4 inches. There's 2 inches of insulation, and then another 7 1/4 inches structural concrete behind it. So it's a true sandwich panel. It's 12 inches thick, very energy efficient. I'm bypassing you, Don, because you already got there. The outside of the concrete will be a sandblasted white concrete. So white concrete, there's 2 types of concrete. There's gray and there's white. Gray is used for like sidewalks and driveways. White is what they use at Monona Terrace, downtown Madison. So we buy the same cement that they use at Monona Terrace, and we sandblast it and bring out the aggregate. So it ends up looking like this. And then the steel colors are white, of course, and then the orange. So the orange that you see on the elevations is stain. So the stained concrete. We had the conversation this morning about the stain, color will fade, but we believe this is just an item that they recognize, steel recognizes is going to be a maintenance item, and as it fades, they're going to have to refresh that stain over the years. It's a different stain than Johnson Health Tech. Johnson Health Tech uses an acid stain. That's designed to look faded, to be that mottled look. This is more of almost like a paint, but it impregnates itself into the concrete, so it won't peel and chip like paint would, but it'll have more of a vibrant look like paint would. The underline of the steel name is part of the building, but the steel name itself on the 2 corners would be signage provided by Steel, and they'll come back with their sign company to get signage approval at a different time. The front of the building has this long, thin canopy across the front. And the canopy itself is a structural canopy. It's made out of structural tube steel, and it's an open trellis, except over the doors, which will have a flat roof. And that canopy looks like this. This is designed by the same architect that is designing this project. Yes, this one as well. Done seeing that already. And that'll also have the same color as the orange. Now, in the original packet we submitted to architectural review, the canopy was smaller, and Steel asked to increase it, so I picked up this other exit door down here. The main entrance is here. The building itself incorporates a lot of new technology. Almost all of the lights will be LED lights. This plan may be hard to see, but it depicts the exterior lighting. 100% of the exterior lights and 100% of the warehouse lights will be LEDs. So the kind of the darker yellow highlighted, which I highlighted, are tall parking lot pole lights, LED. The brighter yellow would be light bollards. The orange are shorter pole lights that are 15 feet high. And the function of these is to simply light this area down here, which they're going to use as a display area. And then the pink will be LED wall packs to light the dock. The landscape plan. The Bruce Company will be doing the landscaping. In this area down here, this is the courtyard area that they'll be using as a demonstration area. This will be a pavilion, and think of this as a park structure. It's going to be made out of cedar. It's going to have a nice pitched roof to it. It's open on 4 sides. It's lit from below. So when their dealers come, they can take their dealers out there. They can show how to use a chainsaw, how to use a weed whacker, a hedge trimmer. You know, all the products that they use can be demonstrated here. And they're actually going to trim these shrubs and these bushes out here. So these were designed to grow back quickly and to be robust kind of plantings in this area. After this morning's conversation, we're actually going to add trees down this way to screen the dock more fully from the street, but also allows them more opportunity to use their products. All the site will eventually drain down to the east side of the property into 2 bioretention basins, and then drain off to the existing pond. And those bioretention infiltration areas kind of look like this after about a year's worth of growth. I think I've covered all the good stuff.
Anything else you need to say?
I don't think so, unless there's
Okay,
questions.
That's it. Okay.
Um,
Aaron?
Aaron or Mike, I see that Art did deal with the avigation easement, or at least mentioned it. I know you guys are aware of that. Do the light poles have to be? Do we have to do anything as far as that's concerned? Get any kind of exemption, or is it just enough to provide the notice?
How tall are
Right.
they? They're shorter than the building, aren't they?
The question of light poles?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the packet that we submitted for architectural review, the cut sheets for the lights are in the packet. The building itself, I probably forgot to mention, the building is 36 feet high. So it's a tall building. I believe the tallest light pole is only 24 feet high. And then the poles that are located in this pavilion area are 15 feet high. So the poles will be well below the height of the building.
Anything, yeah, on the property was checked at for the building height to be anywhere on the property, so that was looking at the 40-foot threshold. So the lights would be under that.
Okay.
Aaron?
Sure, we can go through our staff reports. I'll point out the staff reports get written about a week in advance, so Brett's had a chance to address some of these issues already. We addressed a few of them at the ARC, so some of the conditions are a little bit out of date already. But as far as the background, there's a few different sets of rules that a project like this has to meet. The first being the comprehensive plan. The parcel is designated as planned industrial in our future land use map. The land use of the project certainly fits within those criteria. The only policy in the comp plan that was not addressed in the initial submittal was screening of mechanical equipment. That's something we talked about quite a bit at the ARC. That'll be reflected in the conditions we talk about in a little bit. The project also almost entirely compliant with the zoning regulations. The one issue that stood out, there was a buffer yard that's going to be required along the southern edge of the property where it abuts the Quarry Ridge residential subdivision. That portion of the subdivision directly adjacent has not been released for development yet. There's no houses there. There's not even streets there yet. So we're willing to allow Steel to wait to install the buffer until they either expand the building to the south or until that phase of Quarry Ridge is released and there's actually something to buffer from. The Commerce Park covenants, we talked about quite a bit at the meeting this morning. A couple of conditions came out of that. The signage, as Brett mentioned, will get reviewed separately when the sign permit comes in. Again, we talked about screening the mechanicals, planting turf on the undeveloped parts of the site. And then we talked about screening the outdoor refuse area, which is, I'm not sure if you talked about that in the presentation this time. It's located on the southern end of the truck bay. The ARC is looking for a little more screening of that, which led to the additional plantings that Brett had mentioned. And then Lee brought up the navigation easement that the village has with Blackhawk Airfield. There are some height restrictions associated with that. The project does meet that. The other element that pertains is that we have to notify the airport when there's going to be any construction activity that may encroach the airspace, so we'll just look for a construction schedule from you guys that we can pass on to the airport. So the conditions based on this morning's meeting changed a little bit from what's in the staff report. So you have this other village action report that came out today and should be sitting at your spot on the table. We ended up with 9 conditions. For the planning conditions, we didn't talk about the engineering this morning. The ARC basically just looks at the covenants and not so much the engineering. So the planning conditions, the first one, again, to provide cut sheets showing how the rooftop units will be screened. 2, that the buffer yard will be installed later on, either when the building is expanded or when the Quarry Ridge parcels are released. Showing the turf planting on the undeveloped parts of the site. Number 4, providing additional details on the signage when the sign permit comes in. Number 5, the ARC agreed that the open air dumpster enclosure is okay as long as the additional landscaping is put in to help screen it from Commerce Parkway. Number 6, we'd like to see the sidewalk on Matt Pass extended all the way to the south property line. It was just shown about halfway on the initial submittal. Number 7, the notice of starting construction and the construction schedule that we can pass on to the airport. 2 new conditions that came up at the meeting. Brett already mentioned the chain link fence. We wanted to see the vinyl coated in black to match the decorative fencing. One other item that came up at the ARC, they wanted to see the eastern edge of the eastern driveway on Commerce Park get curb and gutter. So those were the planning conditions, and I can turn it over to Mike for the engineering.
Yes. Mike?
The first 3 comments are just additional details that the engineer should provide on cross sections for access points, the stalls, and the loading areas. The 4th comment is review the typical section for a street patch. We talked before the meeting, there may not be a reason for that. Let's see, maintain emergency vehicle access at all times. Provide, Aaron covered the proposed sidewalk. Proposed sidewalk should include the curb ramp with the detectable warning field at Matt Pass and Commerce Parkway. Provide additional inlet protection on the east side of Matt Pass. The developer to provide the terrace trees.
and the developer to complete the erosion control and checklist and land disturbance permit. We received that in packets. Utility plan submitted shows a 10-inch connection to the water main, and I think we gave some options for that. We talked about rather than, well, one of the options would still work if we are able to extend the high-pressure water zone to them, so that's something that we discussed before the meeting today. And so that would be suitable. And then in stormwater, we did receive the stormwater report, and based on the comments 12 through 16. So,
Mike, are these in response to what you've received?
Initially,
Okay.
we received new information. And then the grading, 17 and 18. How much of the stockpiles will be used that are out there? I know the plans had proposed using that, and that's terrific. The structural fill on site, and then what would be the plan for the balance? The plan is for the undeveloped part of the site should be left seeded, and so we would assume just at least graded for that. And then I think that's it. Final grading plan for the entire lodge. So that'd be the last comment.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Don, do you have any more comments or questions? Phyllis? Aaron?
I'm curious if in the conversation with ARC, it came up about the very long expanse of the building, just a little bit of a monotony going on. And if there's any discussion about breaking that up with some vertical elements or something like that. Right now, I guess I don't mind it so much, but I'm wondering once the addition goes on, if it's going to be pretty huge.
We did not discuss that,
No.
other than the color breakup.
Yeah, you're referring to the west elevation
Yeah.
on Matt Pass.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Which would be this elevation.
Right. I mean, I like the fact that it's just not plain white and you've got those orange elements, but you extend that, you basically double it, and I'm just kind of wondering if there's any thought of putting some kind of vertical architectural elements on there to kind of break that up.
I think I agree with what you're saying. It would be a long building. We haven't given that thought at this time. I guess we would just probably be thinking a continuation of this same look down the street. The two street sides really have the architectural treatment. The back of the building, let's see, or the dock side of the building, I should say, does have some light for natural light into their warehouse, which is more of a function thing for them, just to get some natural light in. But these are not on the other side of Matt Pass, which is here, which I guess they do have the windows for the office in the corner here. But we can definitely look at some, maybe what this looks like in the future, continuing down, maybe there's some break in the continuity of it.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, are you talking about something above the roof or just?
No, just like maybe some different colored sections that go beyond the orange and high.
Because we're always bumping up against that 40-foot.
Well, I think.
Not
Eric's
above
talking
the
about
facade,
When the
just-
building gets expanded, how the treatment of the facade in the addition might get treated to break it up.
Kind of like Johnson Health Tech has some different colored sort of sections on there.
But you're okay with it now, the way it is? I mean,
Well, I mean,
for the future addition you're talking about?
I think it's kind of monotonous now, and I think once the addition goes on, it's going to really look like just a big, long, monotonous thing.
I think at that time they could probably maybe do something on the addition, at the start of it,
Mhm.
Yeah, and we'd be happy
And
to
trees and landscaping can always help soften that up too. So
It's amazing how they really do.
yeah.
But we'd be happy to submit maybe now what some options could be, so when we come in for the addition. Let me ask you this question. If they said today that they want to make this building half again bigger, would you want to see some other type of design if the building was 100 feet longer?
I think it would help. I mean, I don't know, I kind of thought too, in looking at it, like the teeth of a chainsaw, so maybe that's part of the fee. Can I trademark that right now? So, you know, but, I mean, I've seen worse, so
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that came up in the conversation.
I'll be happy to talk to our architect and see if he could come up with an option or two that we could submit. And Aaron, we could, when we turn in the other changes, we could just submit that and you could pass it around. That's, if that'd be satisfactory.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Harvey?
I like Aaron's comment, but otherwise I think it's a great concept, great idea. I really am impressed.
Don?
Looks great.
Good. Any other comments down there on the table?
Brett, did Steel have any issue with the conditions that are new from ARC?
From this morning's conversation?
Right.
No.
Okay.
We are, there's the issue of the roof screens, it's gonna cost them some money, but they get it. And we'll just work through that with them.
They were actually on the phone. They actually were on the phone during the meeting, so they were able to hear what was going on and
Yeah.
address.
Well, maybe they're too polite to. Well, and the reason I ask that is when we do a developer agreement and approvals for a commercial project like this, the minutes of the Architectural Review Committee, the Plan Commission, and the Village Board all become appended as the exhibits. So I think at one time we would include some of these conditions and spell them out, but it just becomes so lengthy that we now have appended these minutes. So we have to make very sure that everything that staff is asking for, that the Plan Commission and Architectural Review is asking for, is set forth. And if you're going to require as part of your approval, Mr. Newcomb's suggestion that, that they submit some plans that, well, this is how it might look in the future. You need to make sure that we touch base on all of these things. Otherwise, they'll be incorporated in it. Then the village board will have its chance to look at it.
I have one question for either Mike or Aaron. I see on the Village Action Report that Public Works, there's a spot for them to check off. Is this going to go to Public Works right now, or is just having Mike do it enough?
Yeah, I don't think.
Mike is kind of acting as the interim Public Works
Yeah.
Director, and I think Jim was at the initial meeting when we first met with the design team.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to make sure of that.
If there were proposed changes to parking and that sort of thing, it would be something that they would look at, but that hasn't happened.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Newcomb? No? Then I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the site plan as, and building plans as submitted with the recommendations from the Architectural Review Committee for the conditions set forth, and that of Aaron Ruth and the village engineer, Mike Maloney. And Aaron, did you want anything put in on your deal?
I mean, I'm one voice. I don't know what the rest of the
I
panel
guess
feels
for
like.
information purposes only, to look at what in addition they look like. Some options.
So options for the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Don, would you entertain a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Well, wait and see.
Okay.
You're right at it. Then, yeah, you don't give it away. But if we reference the memo date of from both Aaron and Mike, and the reason for this, folks, is that years down the line, when people on the board changes, and then someone says, well, what went into that approval? And they reference the letter of such and such, and you don't know for sure what the date is, so let's just make sure that we have the February 4th staff memo from Aaron and Mike. Your letter is,
For me, we want it to be the village action report.
okay,
That was handed up, so that reflects.
all right.
the-
So,
That would be the February 11th for the village action report. And Mike, what was your date?
February 4th.
February 4th. Okay.
Okay, I'll second that. So we have a motion on the floor to recommend approval of the site plan review application from Steel Corporation for the proposed improvements to Lot 4, the Cottage Grove Commerce Park, with the conditions set forth in Aaron Roos' letter of February 11th, 2015, MSA's letter from February 4th, 2015, and an option for a future diagram of, in addition to the building. Did I cover it all?
Diane, could we just amend what you said
Yeah.
to, instead of Aaron Roos' letter, that the village action
Action
report?
Okay. So,
correct.
village action report. Okay. Any other discussion? On hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you
Thank you.
again. We'll see you on Monday night, I guess, right? Okay, we are at item 7, comments from the commission members.
Just glad to see Steel coming into the community. And it's, you know, the ideal, they saw the location was an ideal location. And it'd be nice to attract a few more businesses similar to that can take advantage of our ideal location amongst the interstates and that.
Well, Sharon, Harvey.
I'll second Don's. It's exciting. It's very exciting. I actually, one of the things I picked up on was the idea that they'll be bringing in dealers from a quad state area, and I'm hoping that will help to attract hotels and restaurants to that area as well. One other thing I wanted to mention was I saw surveyors out along end today where UW Health is going to be building a building and putting in flags and spraying paint and making markings so they know where to go.
Good. Rob? Okay, I would just like to say that I'm very glad for the help of Ruta Bush and Company for their work in bringing this steel to us, and for the staff for all the work they have been doing in the last few months, several months. And I'm very happy to. I second and third your comments. The other thing I have, if anybody's interested in show choir, I got that email, and that is Saturday. It's too late for me to say it on the village board, so I'll say it tonight. It's, is it the 21st? Okay, so it's a week from Saturday then. But it's, yeah, okay. You don't have to perform. Future agenda items. Do we have anything coming down the pike?
We sure have one CSM, and there may be a few other items.
Okay. So undoubtedly we'll have a meeting then next month. Great.
Just for the information of the Plan Commission, the developer agreement with Livesey, the Livesey company in UW Health has been agreed to. Closing is will be coming up on that. So that's probably why the surveyors are out surveying.
Thank you. Item 9, approve the minutes of the Plan Commission meeting on January 14, 2015.
To approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that. There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as presented for January 14, 2015. Any discussion? And hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
One,
Okay.
Two. Yeah, Brown.
2. So it's 4-0-2, right? And item 10.
Diane?
Yes.
Just an informational, the standpipe 2, the water tank behind Village Hall, is going to undergo maintenance this summer, and the paint color will change as the Tower 3 to the north is. So it'll be the green lower half and light gray upper half. So
Okay.
people will be aware of that. That was approved at Utility Commission.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, item 10.
Motion to adjourn? Second?
Motion and second to adjourn, non-debatable. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 40 minutes.
Not